Hey, church. Welcome back to the Just Like You podcast. We're on season 3, episode 3, and we're happy to see you back here again. You're on with Sorzy
and MJ.
Welcome back. Today, we've got another kind of themed episode, meaning we've got a missionary in the chat. We've got a very special guest. And really, just without further ado, it's Erika Dilda.
Dr. Erika Dilda.
Erika Dilda. PhD, actually.
Yes, those letters after my name. Very exciting.
Wow. Did you add that to the email signature?
Life. Oh, yeah.
Did you add it to your LinkedIn?
I did add it to my LinkedIn, yes. It was very exciting. I was like, 5 years later, I could finally change my email signature. That's about all I got so far.
Was it worth it? For
TBD, but yeah, it was a big rush for sure, changing the signature. So. But the most exciting part that I was waiting for the whole time is when my Amazon packages arrive and I go, just what the doctor ordered. This is my motivation to get through the tough parts.
That's awesome. Is Jaden just sick of hearing that now?
Probably, yeah. It's not going to be funny anymore by the time he has his PhD.
When's that going to be?
I think he's done like 2027, so
wow,
a couple years still.
That's wild. A couple scholars you are.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for people that may not know you? So, program, what years you did each program, and then region, how you serve your region.
Yeah, for sure. So as we talked about, I just finished my PhD. So I did that at Mac, and that was in neuroscience. So that was from 2019 to 2024. So just finished that in October. And then before that, I also did my undergrad at Mac, and that was in biopsych, so bio and P&B.
Is that through like
P&B.
life science?
Yeah, so I started in life sci in first year, and then you specialize in second year. So I did biopsych, and that was from 2015 to 2019. So.
Oh, you didn't need a master's before. This was like a direct entry.
So I started as a master's student, technically, and then after a year in the program, you can transfer into PhD.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, so I never got a master's, so I don't have a master's. But yeah, it kind of saves you a year because a master's usually takes 2 years instead of the 1. So, and then I just stayed in the same lab.
It saves you a year, but then it adds 4.
Yes, basically. So it depends how you want to look at it. But if you were to do master's and PhD, it would be like probably 6 years at least.
True.
So this was only 5.
Let's go.
Yeah. I'm still at the MAC region, and I'm leading campus evangelism with my husband, Jaden.
Wow.
Have you gotten used to saying husband?
Not at all. It feels weird every time. So
for those who don't know, when did you guys get married?
We just got married in June of this year, 2024. Nice. Yeah. So
what was the date?
June 8th.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So early in the wedding season. So yeah, it was good. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also a missionary in my simple church.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That's great. And where does your simple church? They did West Side for the longest time.
Yes.
And then West Side's coming to an end.
West Side is switching things up.
Okay.
So we used to partner with a church downtown called Crossfire, and we would do community dinners for like the people in that area, a lot of like low income people. So we're no longer going to be partnering with Crossfire, but we're going to do something different. So we have...
Is this the announcement?
I don't know what we're doing, to be honest with you.
TBD.
I thought there was like a big...
Like, whoa, insider info.
I had insider info for a bit, but now the team knows. We have a new, ministry lead. So they're kind of figuring out what that's going to look like in the new year. But so excited for what's to come. But it's also kind of sad that we're not going to be seeing like that community anymore. But it'll be good. It was just for logistical reasons. Like Crossfire wanted to do stuff earlier in the day, and then since we have a bunch of students and like people who are working that are serving there, it didn't really work well for us. So just trying something else.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Change is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we've got a good icebreaker for you.
I feel like you would enjoy it.
Okay.
I think Jaden would enjoy it as well.
Nice. I'm ready.
So it is, if you're a potato, how would you like to be cooked?
That's so funny. Okay, before I answer this
You've
is
answered
actually,
it before.
No, this is a really funny question though, because do you remember like Snapchat filters? There was one that was like a dancing potato. And I think it was during COVID, and like my brain was pretty mushy. And my housemate at the time, T, who used to be part of our church, but she just like put it on me, and I started like doing something really weird. So she has this video of like me as a potato because of that. I think Robin saw it at one point, and he was like, feel like he learned a lot about me in that moment. But how would I like to be cooked as a potato? I feel like that's hard. There's so many good forms of potatoes. I feel like my go-to is like roasting potatoes and get a nice like crisp.
Okay.
So maybe that. I just feel like it's one of the best options.
Have you ever tried smashed potatoes?
Oh, those are good.
Aren't they just roasted, but then like...
But then like that,
Yeah.
and then you can put whatever you want on it. Like you can put cheese on it, or you can
So it's like French
season
fries.
it. It's kind of like wedges-ish, but smashed a little bit. Have you ever tried accordion potatoes?
Oh, I keep seeing videos of them on the internet. I don't know if I've ever actually made them though, but they look really good.
My sister actually, during COVID, one of her like hyperfixations was different forms of potatoes.
Oh yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
funny.
She
I didn't
made
hear about
so
that.
many different ones. She loves accordion potatoes.
I feel like I heard about a lot of people getting into like sourdough, but not potatoes. So that's really fun.
Wow.
That's good. I feel like classic.
I would
Classic
go
roasted.
mashed.
Yeah.
Really?
Why?
Oh, shoot.
Are you the kind of person
'Cause
that
you
puts
can
a
be
lot
on-
of cream in your mashed potatoes? Like super.
I like
Creamy.
like probably like a cup if it's like 5 potatoes.
That's your
So not
ratio.
that much. But I feel like mashed potatoes are like pretty versatile because you can have them on like shepherd's pie or
I haven't had shepherd's pie in ages.
Annie and I made some like a couple months ago.
None for
Caleb
us.
Graham walks in the kitchen. He's like, "You're having that before your run? That is such a heavy meal." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. I have one slice. I'm out." I'm like, "Yeah, this guy was not lying."
Did you still go for a run?
I think we ran our marathon. I think it was just before our marathon.
What?
So yeah, we did.
Wow.
It
That's
was
impressive, actually.
I'm pretty sure that was our night before marathon meal.
Wow.
Would you recommend?
I mean, we finished it, so yeah, I think I would recommend shepherd's pie before a marathon.
Hot take.
Just not too much cream.
Yeah, that's what got you.
Yeah. A good ratio.
And next question after that is the most influential piece of scripture.
Yeah, I have a couple because I can't just choose one. So one is Proverbs 3:5-6 that says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he'll make your path straight." And then another one is Matthew 6, I think, 25-34. Which is, I'm going to paraphrase because that's a lot of verses.
I thought you were going to have all nut. I'm like, wow.
Overachiever over here. But it's the...
You can just say it's the message.
Yeah, there you go. It's the Erika message. It is when Jesus is talking about, like, don't worry about your life. You can't add any time to your life by worrying, and, like, God cares for the birds in the air and, like, the flowers of the field. Like, how much more will he care for you? And that one was, like, really influential, like, early on in my walk. I think it was one of the first times I, like, really felt like God was speaking, like, directly to my situation through scripture. Just briefly, it was like I was worrying a lot about finances going into my undergrad, and I just, like, randomly opened my Bible, and, like, that was what I ended up reading. So that was really cool and timely. So, yeah.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, so I feel like today a majority of our theme is balancing high commitment times in your life, and how to keep priorities straight while having a lot of responsibilities in different areas of your life. And I feel like we can kind of start with, I mean, you were a student for so long.
Yeah.
An undergrad and then a PhD, and you have a lot of experience, like, still taking on roles in our church and serving positions in our church while also being a student and being, like, in a high responsibility, high commitment season of in school. So how did you like find a balance, and how did you know that you had a good balance?
Yeah, I think some trial and error for sure. I definitely started off, like, in my undergrad, I worked, like, way too much and, like, did not prioritize my faith enough. And then I think as I started taking my faith a little more seriously, like, I was like, okay, if I want to, like, be real about this faith thing, it's going to have to come above other things in my life. And so, like, through that, I kind of started being like, okay, I'm going to be intentional and make sure that I'm at, like, huddle and gathering and, like, start serving and stuff like that. And, like, that kind of took some steps of faith for sure, of being like, I don't know when I'm going to have time necessarily for school stuff, but I know this is important, so I'm going to do it. And God was, like, really faithful in that, and it was really cool seeing just, like, him make extra time for me, and I don't know where it came from, but yeah, it was there. And yeah, so I think just kind of, like, figuring that out and making sure I was being intentional about those, being present at things that were important. And like, I'm a pretty big planner, so I would also be like, okay, I know I have, like, huddle this night and gathering this at this point, and, like, these are my deadlines for school, so maybe I can start, like, a little ahead of time so I can make sure that I can be present at those things. Yeah.
Wow.
Backing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess I forgot to ask this question in the first place. Did you grow up Christian?
Yeah.
Little background snippet into, like, your faith prior to university, and then how you got connected with Lyft.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
then we'll continue.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up, like, going to church every Sunday or most Sundays. And I was also part of a youth group that hung out every Friday, and then we would do Bible studies.
I was
like,
also
every
part of
other
a youth
week.
group that hung out on Fridays.
Nice. Shout out to the Friday youth groups. Yeah, so that was kind of like what my faith was. Like, it wasn't really anything outside of that. Like, I didn't really have my own relationship with Jesus. Faith was more of like this is part of my routine and kind of something that I do because my parents told me I have to, especially Sundays. I feel like there was a long period of my life where it was a struggle, like a fight every Sunday because I wanted to sleep in like as a teenager, and my parents were like, no, this is important.
And that's
like,
why you found a church that's at 4 p.m.
Exactly.
Well, when you started, were they doing like the 2?
They were, yeah.
So which one were you going to?
I think I went to the 7:30.
Dang.
Yeah.
Super sleeping.
Late.
Yeah, wow.
I would wake up at 6 p.m. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I can't remember the exact times. I think it was like 5 and 7:30. And then anyways. So coming into university, I got connected to Lyft because Felicia Wilding and I went to high school together.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, shout out to Felicia. So she came a year before I did. I took a year off after high school just to like work a little bit more, do like part-time school and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. So Felicia came right away. She found Lyft and she was like, you got to come to this church with me. It's really awesome. And I was like, all right, like church is part of my routine, so I'll do that. And then, so I got connected to a simple church as well. I just like went to the same one that Felicia was going to. Annie was actually my first, Annie and Allie Graham were my first simple church leaders. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
So how old are you?
28.
And then you would have started
I was
undergrad in
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, sorry to Allie and Annie because I was super flaky at Huddle. And same with gathering, like those were things that I would kind of go to if I didn't have schoolwork to do, but I definitely prioritized school over my faith because I didn't really have a relationship with Jesus. Like it didn't really, it was like an important thing because it had always been a thing, but it wasn't like that important. And I think at the time, like a lot of my identity was in my performance, especially at school. And like I had always done really well in high school and people were always like, well, you're not going to do that well in university. Like not directly to me, but like you just
in general,
hear that.
A lot of high school teachers are like, oh, expect a 20% drop.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, it's not going to be me. Like,
I'm going to defy the statistics.
Yeah. So I was like, I really want to continue doing well in university. So I just like worked really, really hard. And then, like kind of didn't really prioritize faith that much. And my identity was definitely tied to that. I don't know if I realized that at the time, like probably didn't realize that it wasn't like a stable or a healthy thing to have your identity in. But like looking back, I was pretty like nervous when grades would come out. I was like constantly checking for grades and stuff. And like I did do well, so I think that also added to the like false security of it. But it was also like kind of isolating because since I was studying so much, I like wouldn't hang out with people, or I would like get annoyed at my friends if they were like hanging out nearby and they were being loud and I was trying to study. So like I had friends and like I hung out with them sometimes.
Just to be clear, Erika did have friends.
Yes, don't get me wrong. But like I didn't like go deep in my relationships or like prioritize building church family or anything like that as much as I wish I would have, like looking back. And then like towards the end of my first year of undergrad, I, for whatever reason, started to understand more that like Christianity was about having a relationship with Jesus, and I was like, I want to encounter him more, like I want to know who he is. So I decided to sign up for a mission trip to go to Indonesia in the summer. And I also like went to a summer retreat that Lyft was doing. And those were both like the summer between my first and second year. And coming out of that summer, I was like, okay, I'm going to take my faith more seriously now. Like, I guess I learned a bunch over that summer. I don't remember like specific things necessarily. But for whatever reason, I was like, okay, I'm going to be intentional. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to be intentional about like being present at huddle and gathering, and I'm going to like try to do my devos, because I started to understand that like that's how I'm going to actually get to know God, and like started to recognize that I can't really do this on my own. Like I need community. And so like that was kind of a big prayer in that season of my life too. It's just like for close Christian community. It's really cool looking back, just like how much God has answered that. Super grateful for that. So in that, I was also like still definitely like valued my school a lot and like wanted to do well, but then there was this tension of like, how much do I like do school versus like do these faith things that I've committed to being present at? And so that's where there were a lot of times where I had to just be like, hey, well, I said I was going to go to gathering, or I said I was going to go to huddle, and so I'm going to go even though I don't feel prepared for the midterm that I have tomorrow, or like I don't know, like God will be faithful. And I think that's also kind of where like those scriptures I mentioned kind of tie into this too, is like yeah, like the truth is that God has a plan for our lives, and like I don't understand it, but he's going to make a way. And I don't understand it, but he did give me like extra time. And like I always ended up doing fine, or like being able to prepare or whatever. I got into grad school. I got into the program I wanted to specialize in. So yeah, like we can't mess up God's plan, especially by prioritizing the kingdom and our faith. So yeah.
And I feel like with school and like doing other things when you know you could be studying, I feel like when you get to a point where you're like, I could always be more prepared for something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you will get to a point where you're like, I've done absolutely everything I could. Like, you could put every second of your time, and like there's still probably a page of that textbook that you have not memorized.
Yeah.
And like you're never, it's like this unattainable point of like, oh, I know everything there is to know. You won't.
Exactly. Yeah. And even then it's like you don't know what's going to be on the test.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So it's cool to see like God move in those steps of faith. And then, yeah, so I was kind of like going into grad school. I was at the point of like, I'm going to try to like prioritize these things, but there's still like kind of tension there. It's hard sometimes. Like I was never perfect at it, obviously. But then growing into grad school, I was like, okay, I truly have no idea like how much the workload of this thing is going to be. Like everyone's like, oh, it's going to be so much work. So I was like pretty nervous about that, but for whatever reason, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna get destroyed. Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, super encouraging. For whatever reason, I felt like it would be important for me to have a Sabbath and just like take a whole day where I just like focus on like being in relationship with God and like connecting with him. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know what this grad school thing's going to look like, what my workload's going to be, but I need to have like one day where I don't do any work. And like, that was wild for me to be like, there would be a whole day where I don't do work. That's crazy.
Wow. What were the first couple Sabbaths like?
Honestly, really nice because I was like, oh, I have a break right now. So I would like spend a long time in the Word. I would like listen to worship music, go for like hikes, and just like kind of connect with God in whatever way I felt like connecting with him, or but also kind of like stressful in a way because it's like I'm not working right now. And I think like one of the hardest parts about grad school was just like the pressure that you feel to be working like 24/7, and you see everyone around you like working a bunch. And I also had a super intense supervisor who would like, I don't know, it just seemed like she was working like all day every day. Like this lady she's like in her mid 70s, and she would email me at like 4 a.m. on a Saturday sometimes. I was like, when do you sleep? So anyways, since she worked all the time, I felt like I needed to work all the time.
Or even like be accessible all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is like not healthy.
100%. Yeah.
For someone to have the expectation that like any time of the day, any day of the week, you're going to respond to my email.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was always in the back of my head of like, she could email me literally at any time and like expect me to reply. I mean, I didn't reply at 4 a.m. on a Saturday, but like first thing Sunday morning, like she would expect a response probably. So anyways, so there was like that tension of like the pressure that you feel to work and the guilt that you feel when you don't work, because it's like I know I'm expected to, and I know other people like in my lab or in similar programs in grad school or whatever are working. But then I think by this point I had also realized that in undergrad I worked way too much and I like wasn't social enough, especially in my first year, and that got better like as the years went on, I think. But I think I maybe like overcompensated for that at some points too, where people would ask to hang out and I would just be like, yeah, let's do it. And I would just like go like a week without doing any work or like barely doing any work. So it felt like I was either like working all day every day or I was like not working at all. So like that also wasn't good. Like there's a balance there and I did not have it. So eventually I was like, okay, I gotta like set working hours and I'm gonna work like a regular work day or whatever works, and I'm not gonna work outside those hours. I'm gonna work really hard in those hours, and then I'm gonna feel okay about taking a break because I know I did my work for the day and I was like productive or whatever. So
So you were 9 to 5er?
I tried to be, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't always in the lab that whole time, but I was like would go home and like work or be in the lab office or whatever and like try to read papers or something, because it was also like there's always more you can learn, like as you were saying, like there's always more you can be doing. So I would be like, hey, I gotta like know something about my project, like the literature related to it. So,
and that's the thing is like kind of what you said is you have to be like okay with the work that you put forward, and 2, you have to be okay like knowing when it's time to call it quits.
Yeah.
Even though you know there's more that you can be done, but it's like I'm doing the best that I know how to do in this season. And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at some point you realize too that like if you do work, like if you overwork, like you're actually going to be less productive, or like the work that you're doing is going to be like way lower quality, just because like nobody has actual capacity to do like good productive work like the whole time. Yeah. And so I think like recognizing too like, okay, I need a break right now and that's okay, I can take a break, and it's actually going to make me better if I like take care of myself, like take a break, you know, like exercise, eat well, like that type of thing.
And even knowing that like people have different capacities and that's okay. Like I mean, it's probably not healthy for your supervisor to be doing the work she does 24/7, but it's like, that's not me. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. And the thing with her too is like, she loves it. And like, she has actively chosen to make this like the biggest part of her life. And like, that's the reason she's not retired yet, is because she actually does just like really love it. Wow. And so like, I think in a way it makes sense that she works a bunch, because it's just like her passion as well. And I was like, my project's cool, but like I want to have a life outside of work too, like.
But also, that being said, I feel like probably in academia fields you probably see a lot of people that like this is their life's work, and probably like this is where their identity lies too, because it's their life's work, it's their passion. Yeah. So how in like a high commitment, like academia driven field, do you prioritize like, actually no, like my identity's not in this, even though like I'm putting a lot of money forward, I'm putting a lot of my time forward and my brain capacity into this, but like this is not my identity. Like how do you differentiate that? Yeah, I think that is definitely a struggle, but I think having like the set boundaries of like, this is when I work, and like it's not going to overflow into my life like outside of this, was helpful. Like obviously there's room for flexibility in that, and like we could talk more about that at some point, but then also just like constant reminders of like, this is who God says I am. And like especially when I experience tension in like, oh, I'm not working right now, or like maybe my supervisor is going to be upset that I didn't answer her over the weekend or something, just like reminders of like, God's purpose for my life is so much bigger than like how quickly I respond to my supervisor's email, or this like relatively short period of my life in the grand scheme of things, of like how well I perform in grad school. And like obviously you want to like work hard and like do your best when it's time for that, but I think I had to be really intentional about not letting it like take over my whole life. And so like having those like set boundaries and just like constant reminders was helpful. And then like being present in community that knows like
that I'm doing grad school and that I probably need to be reminded was also helpful too. And just like having those like regular breaks of like, I'm not in school right now, I'm in the Word with my church family. Just like resetting your mind and like setting it back on those truths.
And probably also like having a community that is like very much outside of your field, because I feel like if you have work friends or like PhD like lab friends or whatever, I feel like a lot of the time you're going to talk about what you have in common, which is the work that you do. But it's so important outside of that to be like, I don't want to talk about my work. Like, it's outside of my scheduled hours. Like, there's so much more to my life that I want to share and that I want to dwell on and talk about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something else that was helpful is like seeing other students at Lyft. Like, there are other grad students. I'm not the only one that's like serving. Like, I would see like Liz serving or like present at like a members assembly or something. I'd be like, okay, she's here, so it's okay that I'm here too.
Did you ever like ask Liz about like the same kind of things that you would go through?
We talked about it like briefly a couple times. Yeah, I feel like we definitely could have probably chatted about it more. Yeah. And then like Jesse Brown, like leading the Guelph region, I'm like, he's like a whole skirt. I am just showing up to gathering. Like, it is definitely okay that like I'm doing this. So just like validation there. Yeah. But yeah, definitely chatting with other people within the church, and sometimes like God would encourage me through other grad students who would randomly just be like, yeah, like I work 9 to 5, and I'd be like, oh, I'm not the only one. Yeah.
Me too.
Yay. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I feel like I've been taking over this pod. Anything to say?
I think I just haven't like been in a place where I struggled to like put like school ahead because I didn't like prioritize it as much.
That's so business core.
Is there any like advice that you would give for someone who is in that area? Like maybe they're not prioritizing or like balancing, like I feel like you can categorize like God with like spending time with people from church as when it's just like hanging out. Like how do you like get the perfect ratio or like improve the ratio?
I think it also comes down to like what do you value and like knowing your values. So like if I value my faith and like building church family and like social interactions with other friends or even with like church friends, like what is the order of that, and like and obviously like if I value school, like where does that fit in, and like when am I gonna have to choose one of those things over the other? Like usually time doesn't allow you to just like do everything you want. So I think just like being like, hey, what do I value the most, and like how is this decision I'm making like fit in with like or align with those values? Where does that fall? And then I think the other thing is like what is the most urgent, I think. So like, is it super important that I study and work on this assignment right now, or can I take an hour to like hang out with a friend, or to like to serve, or to like help a friend that needs help right now? Or is it like 15 minutes before my assignment's due and I need to choose that? But I think kind of like with that too is like I mentioned, I think earlier, just like looking ahead and knowing like when are the things that I need to be there for, and like when are my deadlines, and then like maybe I can start working on things like a little bit earlier so that I have more time for flexibility, so that I don't end up like 15 minutes before my assignment's due not able to like
do
anything.
That's been my ongoing struggle this semester with grad school and a full life outside of grad school. Even just part-time. I couldn't imagine PhD. my prof's been asking me if I want to go to the PhD route, and I'm like, not after this semester.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
No, not after this semester. But yeah.
What do you feel like is a comfortable like time in advance for planning? Like if you were to, like, when do you schedule things? Like, is it every beginning of the month and like start working on something that's due the third week, like first week or second week?
Yeah, how much forethought do you put into your scheduling?
I'm trying to remember like undergrad, because I feel like in grad school, like there were some deadlines, but it was like a couple times a year you would have deadlines. So in my last year, I finally was like, okay, maybe I should start this like a couple months in advance, because it took like so much of my time. And all the other years I'd be like, I'll start like a couple weeks before, and then it would take me way longer than I expected it to. But like, yeah, for my undergrad, I think honestly, you're probably going to make fun of me for this, but like I would look at the syllabus like at the beginning of the year and like map, like put everything in my planner. And then
That's not even that bad though.
No, it's so helpful.
Yes.
I thought you were
so
gonna say like you
helpful.
started working on the material before the first day.
No.
Like, whoa.
Okay, no, I'm not that bad.
You actually
Amazing.
bought the textbooks a semester in advance.
No. Okay, well, I feel like some other people that I've talked to, aka Jaden, would definitely make fun of me for that. I would like start working on things like when they introduced the assignment in class or something. Like if I could. Like it depended on like what other stuff I had to do, I guess. But like I would always try to start working on things like basically as early as I could, just so that it could be done. And I think that's just like partly how my brain works, is like I'm gonna stress about this thing until it's done, so I may as well just get it done early rather than like leaving it. So, but then I think like doing that and giving yourself that extra time allows you more time for flexibility, because it's like, okay, like my assignment is like started and it's not due for another like week, so yeah, I can hang out with my friend, or like I can have coffee with a girl at my simple church, or whatever that looks like. So I don't know if there's like a specific this is when you should start, but I think it also depends on like how long it's gonna take you. So if you have an idea of that, which is the hard part, but if you've done something similar or the same thing, then I guess you kind of know.
Have you ever been in a season where you've been like operating over your capacity?
Yeah, definitely.
And did you like acknowledge that? Because I feel like a lot of people that go into academia like are high capacity people, and they're people that like are proud of the work that they do, which is great, and you put your best foot forward, but like I feel like sometimes it can take a lot to admit that like what's on your plate right now is too much. So how did you like be okay acknowledging that, and then what did you do?
Yeah, I think the ways like I recognized that it was too much was just like I was exhausted and like not enjoying what I was doing anymore. Like it was just like annoying. I was probably like irritable and stuff.
Did Jaden ever be like, what did you do?
What's your problem? I think he just probably knew. I don't remember him like calling me out at all, but it's possible that he did. Yeah, and what did I do? I think I did like step back from some stuff. Like there's some stuff that you can't really step back from. Like it's like this is your project and you have to do it. But like again, like if there's flexibility in like how much you're working on it or whatever. And then yeah, just like acknowledging like how much am I really able to do like serving wise with church. Like it's a priority and like I want to do these things, of course, but like you also can't say yes to everything. And I think even like going to like social things that are happening like in church, like there's always fun things happening, or there's like so many ways that you can serve, but like nobody can be at every single one of those. And I think just like realizing that it's okay to not be at every single one of those. And even like learning to evaluate like where am I at in this moment as I'm deciding, am I going to go to that thing? Like, do I feel like I have social battery, or am I going to go there and just like be like completely shut down or like not enjoying it or whatever? And kind of like as I get to know myself a little bit more, I can be like, okay, I will actually be able to like be present with the people that I'm trying to build a relationship with by going to this thing, or like it's actually going to be worse for all of us if I go to that thing. And so like, yeah, learning to kind of recognize that too, and just like
takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah, and I'm still learning. I feel like I like to be able to say yes to everything, and like I like to be social and stuff, and so I wanted to be able to do all the things. So it is hard for me to say no, but I think just like the reminder that like it's okay to say no, and it's like we were talking about earlier, like you can't actually like function well, like you can't build like a good relationship with that person, or like your discipleship is not going to be as good if you're like over committed. And so like realizing, going back to like what are the like most important things, what are the priorities, and adjusting as needed.
Yeah. So now you're at a point where you've defended, is that what it's called? You've defended your PhD, your thesis, whatever. You have the title. What's next?
Yeah. So, great question.
Another PhD.
Please no.
What would you name this season of like post PhD life?
This is my fun employment season. Emphasis on the fun. Because I'm taking a little break because I feel like I need it. And I've just like recently started looking for jobs. So not currently working, but trying to make the most of it. Been trying to like hang out with the people that I didn't get to hang out with as much. Spending lots of time with my niece. And then just like serving where I can. So I've been able to serve a lot more in this season. Been able to like do some tabling and just like invest more in our campus evangelism lead role. So that's been really nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Probably first time in a long time where you're like, I have nothing I have to think about.
Yeah, it's so nice. I feel like I have so much more brain space right now, which is great. Yeah. So.
Wow. What's like your ideal position?
I'm still kind of figuring that out, to be honest. I'm kind of looking right now to see what the options are. Like, I don't fully know what's out there. But some stuff that sounded cool is there's some stuff at like research institutes where you'd be like leading and designing research projects. So I think that would be fun. And then there's also like more like science communication side of things. So like different companies will come and be like, we have this data and we want to present it to like this audience in this format. Like, can you help? Or like kind of like working with like medical teams to design like pharmaceutical products or something like that, or even like the communication around that. Lots of options. Cool. I also applied to a teaching prof position, which I think would be really fun. So at Guelph.
Oh.
Yeah. So I will be shocked if I get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh. Wow. So you've done all this hard work. If you had to just provide one little first year, little Erika, what are you gonna drop on them?
I think I would say like it's good to prioritize your faith, and like don't feel guilty about prioritizing your faith, and just like that truth that like God does make time and he does honor those like steps of faith. Like yeah, he'll make time for you. Things will work out. Like he has a plan. Like take that step and prioritize your faith, because it is the most important part of your life. Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Okay, sweet. Can we pray for you?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
In the job search?
Yeah. That would be great.
Yeah,
I
sweet.
think like the main thing there is like surrendering the timing to God, because I have my ideal timing in my head. And I don't think it's the same as God's.
Yeah, we got that. Yeah, I can pray.
Sweet, thanks.
Cool. Dear Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you for the blessing it is to be able to hop on this podcast with a doctor. And thank you for Erika. We lift her up to you. Thank you for the promises you fulfilled in her life. Thank you for little Erika with the big dreams that you have just brought all this way for all these years. Thank you for just the provision that you've had for her. Thank you that you have, been faithful in her steps of obedience over the past 9-10 years, Lord. Thank you for her. Thank you for her drive. Lord, you've created such an amazing individual with such big dreams. And Lord, thank you that she's done. Thank you that she's now in a season where she just has time that she's never had before. And thank you that she's just been using it well and using it to benefit the kingdom and to benefit her brothers and sisters and our region and our campus, Lord. I pray for this season that she's in of looking into the future and her and Jaden asking what's next for her work, and she's finally done school. And I pray that you just bless this time of job searching. I pray that you would, I pray that she would just really put it in the palm of your hands, the timing in the palm of your hands, the actual position. Lord, there's so many things that she can be doing in her career, Lord, but I pray that she would just surrender it to you continually. I pray that your timing and your will would prevail in the job search and in just the timing of her starting a position at some point. I pray that she would look back and just see your faithfulness throughout this year and this season, Lord. I just lift her up to you in the next couple of months, and the patience and the patience that's needed in this job market, Lord. I pray that you just provide her the peace and comfort in knowing that you will provide the finances and you'll provide for her and Jaden. And I pray that you would just bless their marriage. They got married this year, and I pray that there would be just so much fruit in this first year for them as they learn how to start their life together. And Lord, I pray all these things in your name today. Amen.
Amen.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming in. This has been great.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dr. Dilda.
My pleasure.
Are you going to use Dilda as your prof name?
TBD. I haven't changed it legally yet, so like all my job applications, not that I've submitted that many yet, but like what I've submitted so far have all been under like my name.
Mm-hmm.
So still need to figure out what I'm doing professionally, because like all my papers have my name on them
Right.
too. So
True.
It's weird.
Sweet. Okay. Well, we'll sign it off there. It's been great. And thanks for tuning in to this episode, guys. We'll see you next week. And peace on the streets, as they say. It's my new saying. Okay, bye.
Bye.